This is going to be a slightly embarrassing video. Give you a little bit of a backstory. Myself and Foxcast were talking about just some possible videos that we can collab on. Well, one of the things that got mentioned was, you know, like top 5, top 10 dumb things that we've done to Foxbody. Because, hey, look, we've all done it, right? And we're all human. So, that's what we're going to do today. Foxcast has already put his video out. I'm going to tell you guys the top 5, 7, 8, who knows, dumb things that I've done to a Foxbody. We'll use this car as reference. Well, alright guys, let's go ahead and kick off the top 5 dumb things that I've ever done to a Foxbody. Now, all of this is going to be subjective, so don't think that I'm trying to down somebody because they've done the same thing. You know, we've all made mistakes, no doubt. It was dumb because of the specific car and the year that it was. So don't misunderstand. There's nothing wrong with doing some of the mods that I'm talking about, but at the time, really was dumb considering my situation and the age of this car. So one of the first things that I did, and all of this pretty much happened on my 93 GT. So I'll go ahead and throw a picture up for you guys right here so you can look at the car. Beautiful car. It was a 1993 Mustang GT that I bought in 98. I bought the car in 98. So I bought this thing, it was flawless. One of the first things that I did was I wanted to lower the car. Well, I was young, didn't have any money. You know, I got the car, and the first thing that I wanted to do was get this thing on the ground. So I did what I'd always heard people doing. I took my 93 GT to the muffler shop. So we set boards under the car here so we could adjust the height of it. So we set boards under there, and they literally heated my springs and lowered the car. Guys, super cheap mod. I think they charged me like 25 bucks or something like that to heat the springs, and man did it look good. It looked great. Well, as you all know, that is not the correct way to do it. Many of us have done it in the past, so there's somebody out there watching this video right now that has absolutely done that. So one of my good buddies, Ronnie Spivey, I was working with Ronnie and Russell at a place called Auto Techniques. Ronnie pretty much told me right off the bat, you know, you messed up, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, why? You know, it works great. Drive the car down the road, it was freaking horrible. I mean, it bounced all over the place. It drove like crap. And he told me, he said, I'm telling you, you made a mistake. You could jack the car up and the springs would just fall out of it. It was so bad. So anyway, one day, right out in front of the shop, we were right in the city there. So right in front of the shop one day, I got out there and I hit this thing, man. I come around the curve and I hit this thing and grabbed second gear. And when I did, the freaking spring come out from under the car and passed me in the road, and they all saw it. So Ronnie Spivey, you can validate this. So get down in the comment section, Ronnie, tell them how it happened. It was embarrassing, to say the least. So that was one of the dumbest things that I did to my car. And you have to remember, you know, everything that I'm saying is based off the fact that this thing was only like 5 years old at the time. So it was a beautiful example of a 93 Mustang GT. Anyway, let's go to the next dumb thing that I've done to a Foxbody. So one of the next things that I did to my car that was crazy was removing the AC. So we're talking, like I said, a 5-year-old pristine example of a 93 GT. And I literally pulled the AC off. You got to remember, guys, back in the day, you know, there weren't a lot of guys running around with built engines and big superchargers. Yes, of course there were, but not to the level that they are today. So my point is this: you could remove a smog pump, you could remove an AC compressor, put some underdrive pulleys on the car, do a couple little mods, and you might have one of the quicker Foxbodies around. I was in that whole game. I wanted to be quick. I wanted to be one of the faster guys around. So what did I do? I removed my AC. Things like that, that irritates me. I can't believe that I actually did stuff like that. But yeah, I did. I removed the AC compressor on my car to gain, I don't know, guys, what do you think you gain off removing that? 4 horsepower? But look, we've all done stuff like that, and we've all made those kinds of mistakes. So next up is going to be the power steering. Yes, I removed the power steering to go along with this. We literally had nothing on the front of this engine but an alternator. That was it. Like no power steering, no AC, no smog pump. It was an alternator. I had to build a custom bracket right here just to adjust the alternator enough to get some tension on it. Yeah, guys, I did that. Didn't have fatties and skinnies on the car, by the way. So no welds, no little skinny tires in the front, none of that. We're running around on 16-inch pony wheels, slammed in the dirt with heated springs. You know, thinking back, what was I thinking? Seriously. You know, you get so caught up in the game and you want to go fast that you start doing little stuff like this. It gets better, guys. So next up is I put a carburetor on this car. Look, I had aftermarket upper lower intake, heads, cam, all that stuff, right? By this point. But the car wasn't fast enough. So I wanted to put a carburetor on the car. Not that there's anything wrong with putting a carburetor on the car, but it depends on how you do it. So, you know, I go out and I buy myself a Torque 2 used intake. I put a carburetor on the damn thing. I basically gut the gas tank out and put me an inline little $30 Napa pump. So I'm hacking apart this thing to try to make it faster. And, you know, I already had 24-pound injectors. I already had the upper and lower intake. I already had the heads. I already had the cam. I had all this stuff. But no, I wanted to carburate the car. So I did basically a backyard job on it. Stripped everything out of it, slapped me an intake on it, went and got a throttle cable off of a 79 Mustang, put it on the car, and built some custom brackets over there for the carburetor. And yeah, like I told you guys, this is somewhat embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie to you, but you know, it's part of my journey. It's what made me who I am today. So I've made a lot of mistakes on these cars, and I've learned from, well, most of them anyway. So now let's think of everything so far to this point. So we carbureted the car. We took the air conditioner off. We took the power steering off. We took the smog pump. I mean, we basically gutted this thing. I did a wire tuck on it and all. I mean, it looked kind of good under the hood, I'm not gonna lie, but man, it had nothing underneath this thing. Next up is probably the most painful one, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit you with it. I took my 93 GT. Didn't want all this wiring up here. I didn't need this anymore, right? I don't need the injector harness. I don't need all of this stuff. So what do you think your boy did? Yeah. I cut the wiring harness, guys. There it is. I cut the wiring harness on the car. Why I did that, I don't know. I guess at the time I didn't really know how everything unplugged and how it all come out. I just didn't know. I mean, I had no clue. I was still learning. So yeah, I cut it. I mean, I just cut it. Okay, I still to this day, that haunts me. So I know you're going to give me a hard time about it, and guys, I deserve it. I do. After all this time, I guess it's time to just come clean. I deserve that. I cut the shit out of that wiring harness right flush with the firewall. So now you see where I was headed with this. I wanted a clean engine bay, carbureted, with the most power that I could get out of this car, and it didn't matter to me what I did. How I sacrificed the car. Didn't matter. So I cut everything out that I could. I took everything out of this car, and I completely screwed it up. I mean, I cut the fuel lines, all that stuff, and run rubber hose up. You know, you live and you learn. I was young and dumb. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I thought I did at the time, but obviously I did not. But that's part of making us who we are. We have to learn from our mistakes, and I hopefully have learned from mine. It also taught me where I can cut corners and where I can't cut corners. So a lot of times you will see me cut some corners, but I have learned, I have earned that right to cut certain corners. If it works and it's not going to cause any damage, then go for it. There are some things that you just can't cut. Anyway, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Some of the other things that I've done to these cars that, yeah, I just wish that I hadn't. One of the other things is over-camming and overheading one of these engines. Now, it did serve a purpose. Back in the day, it was somewhat common to over-cam a car. And what I mean by that is just putting a lot larger cam than what you actually need in one of these engines, and overheading them. So to where, like, a lot of people would run like a 185cc head, I would run a 200cc head or something like that, just so that I could cut down on the low-end torque on the car, because you guessed it, I could get out of the hole better without blowing the tires off. Now, granted, the tire technology was not really there for us back in the late 90s. The BFG had a tire. I think Nitto come out pretty close after that. I can't remember. But I didn't have the money to go buy tires like that, and most of us didn't, because I mean, we were still young. We were out spinning tires, acting crazy, and instead of those tires would not last any time at all, and they were expensive, and they honestly still didn't work that good. Suspension stuff, man, I didn't want to spend money on suspension. I just wanted to go fast. So instead of spending money on suspension and on tires, I would overcam and overhead my car to the point where it didn't have a lot of low end torque, and I could get out on people. You know what? It worked. Kinda. Eventually, you're going to get up into the RPM and whatever gear you're in, and it's just going to start really blowing the tires off. There are ways to make that work, and I did use it to my advantage many times. But it's a band-aid. It's a workaround. But it's kind of still an option, I guess. And finally, one of the last things that really bothered me with my 93 GT that I had, you know, I told you already I had carbureted everything. I had stripped it all out. You know what? That could have been put back. This car right here was in way worse shape than what that car was. And I'm putting it back. Granted, I have a little more knowledge than what I had back then, but one of the things that really bothered me the most was I was bad about pulling an engine out when I didn't have the money to put it back in. So I had all of these hopes and these dreams of pulling this engine out and basically forcing myself, because it was out, to find the money and build this engine. Big mistake. So that was a really big mistake. That's how my car actually ended up. I ended up getting rid of the car. I pulled the engine out of it, and it was going to build it again and go bigger and better, and I didn't have the money at the time to do it, but I pulled the engine out anyway. And so many of us are guilty of that, and that's one of the biggest mistakes ever, because that will make you sell a car in a heartbeat. That will make you lose interest in a project. I wish that I had never done that. I wish I could have kept that car. It was a stupid clean, straight car. So nice, beautiful car, gray interior. Like I said, I'll show you pictures of it again. But yeah, guys, I messed up, you know. Never do that. Never pull an engine out. Never disassemble a car if you don't have the money to fix it immediately. And I had done it a couple times, and I got lucky, and I was able to scrape and scrounge money together to make this thing work and to get it back together. I couldn't this time. It wasn't going to work out. I didn't have the money, so I ended up selling the car for, God, what did I sell the car for? Sold the car for $3,500 with everything to go back in it. So it was a complete car, essentially. Just the engine was out of it and it was disassembled. I think I sold it for $3,500. Anyway, guys, these are the dumb things that I've done with Foxbodies. We're not even going to get into the 120, 130 mile an hour runs, you know, wide ass open with worn out suspension and bald tires. I mean, I do that in almost every vehicle, so that's not really a Foxbody thing. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it at least makes you feel better about some of the dumb things that you've done to a Foxbody. And please, learn from me. Don't go out and make the mistakes that I made. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.